welcome everyone to another episode of our career webinars. This is our career readiness essential series, meaning we're gonna discover keys, information that is super useful for your career, no matter the field. And for you today, we have this super interesting topic, which is how to share your ideas with confidence by Mirta Aguirre, which is this time me. So I'm both today your hostess and your speaker. And what are we going to explore today? So let's reflect a little bit. Do you ever feel like your ideas don't come across clearly when you're in virtual internships, meetings with your supervisor? Oftentimes, struggling to express yourself confidently can make it harder for your work to be recognized and appreciated, right? So in this session, you learn practical techniques to improve your communication in virtual meetings, helping you structure your thoughts, manage nerves, and present your work with clarity and confidence. And for you to know a little bit more about me, I like to share, yes, who I am, what I do, for those who do not know me. So I am a certified coach and an expert in mentoring people, especially recent graduates, to reach their full potential and achieve their goals. Me, I'm passionate about learning, education, personal and professional development. I love speaking languages. I'm a polyglot. I speak Spanish, my native language, English, French, Portuguese, and German. I think languages are so beautiful. They reflect their culture. I love traveling, so that's very important for me. Now I'm a digital nomad working from Thailand. And something I really did throughout my career was really taking advantage of opportunities, scholarships, and that's how I could do a master's degree in the UK. Thanks to the Chevening Scholarship, I did a master's in education and international development. So you can see my whole trip has been around education. My bachelor is in international relations. And something I've been working a lot is in communication. Communication is essential for everything we do. Everything is a conversation. We need to talk to someone. We need to share an idea. We need to create relationships. And without communication, that's not possible, right? And so when I was thinking what I wanted to share with you guys, I was thinking, okay, what is something that I would have liked to know before I started my career life, right? Are you still with me? Sharing the chat so I know you're there and follow my presentation. And so for me, I was thinking, okay, something that is super important, that is very key for your, thank you. For your career and for your everyday life at work is how to deliver powerful presentations, how to share an idea, right? We have many things we need to say. The virtual environment, Zoom, Meet, is very specific. We've had now 5 years with since the pandemic, and the world went very rapidly more remote, right? So we have the challenge of what we want to share, the Zoom, the digital media, and many things. How do we do to take advantage of this when we are meeting with our supervisor? And for many people, speaking in public is not the best activity, right? Is there anyone who enjoys speaking in public? I believe most. I taught public speaking for many years at university. There were just a few who enjoyed it. Most of them felt like, oh my God, I don't want to experience this, right? So public speaking may be quite threatening. Speaking to someone else, someone important, or professor, our supervisor, like that can be an intimidating situation, right? And actually, the fear of speaking in public, it has its own name. It comes from Greek, right? Glossophobia, meaning gloss comes from languages, from speaking, and phobia, fear, right? Someone says, I'm surprisingly confident in public speaking. Well, maybe not surprisingly. Maybe you have the skills, you have train these. The good news is that we can train these, right? These are skills that we can develop. So we may fear a little bit, but don't panic, okay? Because why usually in general in our life, why do we experience fear, right? When does this happen? No matter the example we can think of, there's always a common denominator in all situations, which is usually that the threat, right? The challenge, the problem that is in front of me usually feels bigger than the resources I have, right? Because if I know I'm confident, then probably I won't feel that, uh, fear. I will be, yeah, nervous or excited, but I don't know. I remember when I started learning languages, right? I speak Spanish. The first times I had to speak with someone in English, it was so frightening for me, right? I didn't speak much. So that was something that I struggled every time. The more I practiced, the better I became. And I was like, one day, okay, I can speak in English, maybe not perfectly. It doesn't have to be perfect. I know I have the resources to face the threat. So I don't have any more fear. Can you relate to this experience? You know, the more resources you have, the more situations you can face now and that feeling, right? So this is the approach I propose to you for public speaking and for communication in this case. All right. So how can we solve this? We have all these situations. What can we do about it? Precisely as I mentioned, by developing skills. This is a skill we can develop. This is something we can learn. This is excellent, right? And two main key pillars, I would say, that will help you to handle presentations, public speaking, one-on-one conversations. First of all, the emotional management, right? This situation triggers a lot of emotions. We need to know how to deal with them, right? Then we need to have some strategies and resources, right? To make sure that we can tackle this, right? Someone is sharing a very, very precise comment. Someone is saying, what I discovered that helped me was shifting my mindset towards public speaking. It doesn't have to be perfect. The main goal is to get the message across. Exactly. And that's a great reframing, you know. Reframing is a technique to change our thoughts. Instead of saying, hey, I don't like this. This is horrible. I can say, yeah, it's challenging, but maybe this is an opportunity for me to learn. And the more practice I get, the more comfortable I will feel. So that's a great way to approach this. Thanks for sharing. So we're going to explore some techniques for both of these pillars, right? First of all, when we talk about emotional management, what are we talking about? Well, basically, it's recognizing, first of all, that we are experiencing emotions and what emotions are these precisely? Is it like it's fear? Is it like I'm nervous? I'm anxious? Maybe precisely it can be helpful to think, when we are nervous and we are anxious, it feels almost the same. So you can really say, okay, now I'm excited most, like I'm really looking forward to this. And physically, it feels basically the same. So, but if you see it like, okay, this is an opportunity for me to learn and keep on, growing. So we said, yes, I'm also nervous. When we speak, it's also normal to say maybe, oh, I'm a little bit nervous. Sorry, it's okay. We're all humans. So we accept what is going on. It's normal, part of the experience. And there are some things that we may want to relax, right? Because how we approach public speaking is basically through our body, right? So the more relaxed we are, the better we feel, the better our message will come out. The mind, precisely because we are talking about, well, self-talk, like what am I telling myself about this presentation? Do I like it? Do I know? Not all that influences. So if I see, hey, this is an opportunity to show my supervisor my work, then this is a good thing, right? And then, of course, a voice, because especially here, our instrument is going to be our voice, right? Something that is super, super helpful when we are nervous is breathing, right? Our breathing affects our blood pressure, the heart rate, the nervous system, the stress hormones, brain activity, right? So if we learn different techniques for breathing, then we can calm ourselves. One technique, very simple, is the 4 square breathing. Basically, you inhale in 4, you hold in 4, you take it out in 4, you hold in 4, and then you start again. Very simple, just 2 minutes. It can really help you, right? So this can also be useful to do it when you have everything ready there in front of you to speak with your supervisor, and you breathe a little bit. And most importantly, it's about creating a routine that helps you. Some people like putting some really energetic music and jumping and taking, the excitement out. Some people like having more music like calm and relaxation and meditation. Some people like to repeat themselves like a mantra. Yeah, we have a very nice comment, precisely. Someone is sharing, I heard somewhere that nervous and excitement are sister emotions, and we should verbally voice out to ourselves that I'm excited instead of I'm nervous, and it will help our mind to move towards that direction and actually feels less nervous. Exactly. Thank you very much. You've been doing some interesting reading. Yes, that's what I was explaining, right? Physically, excitement feels really not different from being nervous, right? Because your heart rate may be going faster, your body's a little bit shaking, your breathing goes faster, but they are basically physiologically, physically, the same process is happening. So if you say, oh, I'm excited, then you can experience it differently, precisely. So the idea is that you create a routine that adapts to you, right? That is whatever, music, to dance, to jump, or to relax, or to calm, whatever works for you. How are we doing so far? Someone is sharing. Oh, I love this audience, guys. You're very, very engaged. I'm so happy. I have also seen this TED Talk recently about stress and how to shift your mindset towards it. I think you could also apply that principle to this. Yes, do you remember which principle? I will share another technique. Yes. And now let's move to this other section, right? So one key pillar is taking care of the instrument ourselves, right? Our body, our mindset, our voice, excellent. Our breathing, amazing. And now, how can we do to make sure that we're communicating what we really want to say? And that's when having some strategies and resources is super useful. And perhaps you are familiar with these questions. Where, when, how, what, who, why. These are known as the W questions. Does anyone know what is this for? What is this used for? Or in which context? Who knows? Who knows? Quick ChatGPT search. Maybe to solve a problem. Importance. Do we have anyone in social science, journalism, writing? To the presentation, So these 6 questions usually are known like the W questions, and they are related, when you're reading a news, like a really brief description of events. These are the key things that you need to understand to really have all the information you need, right? What is happening, where, why, when, how, right? All these key elements that set the scene so you can understand the situation, right? So one key thing when we are thinking about communication is to understand how we communicate, right? And we mentioned our body and our voice, right? And all this has been studied by Meravian, which was who really took understanding of, okay, when people are speaking, right, and especially related to emotions, how do they express these feelings, right? Especially in terms of feelings. And he said, well, most of our feelings are shared by our body, right? And our voice. When we want to share important pieces of information, we use our body language, but the verbal language, the writing, the words themselves. But when we are having everyday conversations, we usually take care more of the tone and how the person is saying what they're saying rather than words. What do I mean? Like if you're, with a friend and you're having a super good time and your friend is like, looking like this, and not smiling and not, singing and enjoying like the rest, you can say like, hey, probably you're not enjoying yourself, right? And when you ask, hey, all good? Yeah, all good. And you clearly see a dissonance, right? Like the body and the way the person is speaking and the words don't match. You will probably go and say, hey, the body and the voice tells me this is not okay, right? So even in not such extreme context, when we're communicating, the tone precisely, our gestures become super important, right? That's why always when we have a conversation with our supervisor and it's important and we want to send a key message, we want to use the video, right? Do you use the video, guys, with your supervisors? So basically, going back to our questions, when we are preparing to have a conversation, a presentation, a meeting with someone, let's say more of a presentation, or I will tell you what my experience was. And I wish I knew this very early when I started working, as I mentioned before. Because although I always been like very into communication and teaching, I had missed one key element, which I will share, right? And now when we're thinking about a conversation and a presentation, I need to understand these key questions. So first of all, let's explore the who, right? The key question I will ask myself, the first one, when I need to have a conversation with someone or a presentation or to teach or anything, the first thing I will ask myself is who? Who is my audience? Who am I speaking to? Who is their position? What is their position, their role? What is their knowledge of the topic? What is their age, their gender? What is their cultural background? What do they need? What are they available? Does this make sense? Because clearly it's not the same speaking to your supervisor, to a professor, to your mom, to a friend, right? To your 5-year-old niece. How do you explain what you do to your 5-year-old niece, right? Or your 10-year-old sister? I don't know. So you're going to change the way you speak, first of all, based on who you are speaking to, right? So this is one of the main questions, first, if you want, that we should all ask ourselves when we're having a conversation with someone or a presentation. Then the super and second important one is what for? What is the purpose? Am I speaking with my mom because I want her to take me somewhere? Like I need to move maybe this weekend, and so I need to persuade them, right? I need to convince her to help me move. Do I need to speak with a professor to explain that I may not I may need more time with the subject, with the paperwork I need to submit, right? So in this case, I may explain, but also persuade them to give me more time. Do you relate to what I'm sharing? So what do you want to gain out of this, right? And this is very important also with your supervisors. Do you want to inform them about the fact that it's a public holiday and that day, unfortunately, you won't be able to work, but you can catch up another day? Are you going to persuade them about maybe some new initiative you would like to take? Are you motivate your supervisor to give you more tasks? Are you going to entertain? You're going to do a party, throw a party with your friends, and you're going to be entertaining. Knowing the purpose help me set expectations, right? Because, for instance, I invite my friends and I want to, let's say, persuade them to go hiking, right? And let's say they all come and we have a beautiful time and we eat and we have fun, and then everyone left and they said, oh my God, Mirta, you were so much fun. And they all left. But I never told them about the hiking plans because I was very into sharing jokes and stories. Did I achieve my goal? No. Maybe my presentation, my speaking was amazing, but it didn't achieve my goal. So setting the goal is essential for measuring the success of my intervention, of my presentation. Do you follow me so far? Send me so I know you're there. And so what is it that we're going to share, right? What is it exactly that what we want to share is precisely the what, right? The message itself. Perfect. Thank you. So let's see. The message itself, the what, needs to have a central idea, right? It needs to be a very concise thing that I can share, and it doesn't need to be very difficult nor complicated. And it needs to follow three key things. We can think of the three C's, and this stands for clear, complete, and concise, right? Meaning what you're gonna send, we all needs to be clear, right? If it's confusing and someone says, then something is failing. Complete, meaning no information can be missing, right? The person who receives the message needs to say, okay, I think I have all the elements I need. And concise, because if we speak too much, then someone is sharing here. This was exactly what I failed to do back in high school. My presentations were always nice, but I didn't achieve the goal. Yes, precisely. We always need to set the goal of the presentation or the communication that we're going to have. And also, something that is super important is to understand, okay, I have a message I want to say. How can I say it precisely, complete, concise, clear, in a short way, short and sweet? And for that, we always need to think about structure, right? Structure in everything we do is amazing, right? It helps our lives be better, right? We have a timetable, we can set some structure. We know we work from this hour to this hour, and we organize our thinking, right? And create a simple structure of what I want to say. Much, much easier, right? I discovered this when I was 19. I traveled for the first time to France. I was studying French, and I was at university, and it was a French history course. And the teacher asked me to submit the plan of the answer. I was like, interesting, the plan of the answer. Well, like, what is that? I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And basically, this was the structure of the answer, right? So they were expecting me to say, oh, we need to, talk more about Napoleon III because of economic reasons, cultural reasons, social reasons. And I was like, what? No. When I discovered this, I was like, oh, this makes so much sense, right? Of course, I'm going to start sharing an idea, an answer into paper with a structure, right? So ideas make sense and the person who reads can understand. For me, this wasn't so obvious. I don't know how your experience was. For me, it took me a long time to discover this. So I'm very happy to share all these tips with you, because if you do this, then you're going to see that your ideas will flow much, much more easier. And for me, basically, when you think of a structure, is how to organize these ideas, right? And nowadays, it's totally perfect to make use of AI, right? AI can be super helpful for many reasons. And when we are writing, it can be very, very useful, as well as we train them on our style and everything. Not for them to do our work. No, I'm not saying that. But yes, to brainstorm, to create ideas. So you can ask ChatGPT or your AI, your preferred one. And the idea is you can say, well, I have this idea, this situation, this main idea I want to share with my supervisor. How could I structure this? We're going to share some potential structure. And basically, how I discovered this was that I was once in a meeting with my supervisor, and in a virtual meeting, we work remotely. And basically, I was sharing my ideas and this and that, and I realized, no, she was very clear. She said, Mirta, you are making it too long. Please go straight to what you want to tell me. And I was like, oh, yes, I wasn't being clear. Or for me, my structure was, okay, I need to share the whole story from beginning to end and explain what happened then and then. And then, so then I explained why I want to do what I want to do, right? She needs to have all the information. In my head, I wanted to explain everything. And in her head, she didn't have time for that, right? And her communication style was like, no, tell me, please, what is it? Is it a problem? Is it like a challenge? Is it like, tell me this and structure it in a way I can understand? The next time we met, I organized the same information with a very simple PowerPoint. And I said, oh, I discovered this challenge. This is the solution. And this is why I think it can work. And at the time, I proposed like two or three solutions and said, I think this is the one we should take. And I was like, she was like, oh, wow, okay, yeah, perfect. And I was like, wow, that was so powerful and so easy, right? So this is what I want to share with you among everything I've already shared. Do you follow? Does this make sense to you? Yes, excellent. Perfect. Amazing. So basically, what you can do, like I did when I was having my meeting with my supervisor, and I want to share that we had a problem, but I didn't use the word problem because, also in terms of reframing and how we see a situation, I don't like talking about problems. I prefer to talk about challenges, right? So I said, I identified this challenge or issue, right? But problem, let's avoid it. And I did these three simple slides and it went very easily. And I was like, wow, really nice. So what you can do is something similar, right? Perhaps the first thing you are going to do is introduce the situation, right? You can frame it as a problem, as I mentioned, but maybe challenge is nice or issue, or you explain what is going on, right? And explain precisely why is it important, this thing that you realize, that you identify this problem, this challenge, right? And you include examples and facts of this, right? This is what's happening. And you organize a little bit this. Then the next point, which can totally be another slide, very simple, it's the solution, right? Okay, so we have identified this. Now we need to move to action, right? So these are things that I think could help us. As I did, you can explain there are three potential solutions. This is the best one because of this, because it doesn't cost anything to implement. It's very cost efficient. It's just like I can do it in 2 days. We can try this, and if not, then move to something else. And then the third point is the next steps. Okay, what happens now, right? And say what you will do to address this, right? So to see an example, let's say you're a marketing intern, right? And so you want to speak with your supervisor, you do some kind of brief introduction and you say, well, while working on X project, I realized something and I'd like to share this with you because I think I found also a solution, right? So you do a small introduction, you can be more creative, but yeah, you introduce a little bit and then you explain, right? So during my marketing internship, I noticed that our website isn't generating the expected traffic. This means we may not be reaching out our target audience effectively, which could impact engagement and conversions, right? So you basically explain the issue. And then you share, like you can share to your next slide and say, well, one potential reason for this issue is that our website may not be ranking well on search engines, making it hard for potential visitors to find us, right? So to address it, we can optimize our website, and then you explain how to do this. And then in the last step, you said, well, I think that for my next steps, what I can do is that I can conduct a quick search and do this quickly, speak with the marketing team, and then we will share the findings with you, right? And then we will move to next steps. So, very concise and very shortly, you can share a powerful message. What do you think about this, guys? Does this seem like something you could implement? What do you think? Is this something that you say, yeah, I think that it can be useful? Yeah, someone is saying, I'm sure this sounds like a better way to get a message across your goals. It is a better way than unstructured and chaotic thoughts, right? And here, if you do it with a visual presentation, it can also create this organization, right? Someone is saying, yes, I always have the problem of being concise and not giving all the details, so it's useful. Yes. And you don't need to have something such text heavy like I did it. You can just have keywords, right? Situation, challenge, low traffic, potentially less people reaching us to us, solution, do the CEO thing, and then this, right? Very key words that can help you in your message. So when we are thinking about the message, we've seen the structure, we've seen the what, the message itself, and how we can improve this with the structure. And now we also need to understand that when we send a message, many of what we send are emotions and our emotional state, or we are creating one emotion with our message, right? If I come here and I'm speaking on like this, and I'm not looking at the camera, and it's like, what's wrong with her, right? You would be like, I don't understand. This is weird, right? If I have an uplifting energy, if I'm committed here, chances are maybe you are going to reply in the chat like you've been doing, right? So our emotions and the emotions we bring when we're having this conversation is important. Even if it's like just a neutral emotion. If you're angry, right? And if you come to someone, like to your professor and say, hey, I didn't like what your mark, clearly, that's not an emotion that's going to help you in the conversation, right? So we need to be aware about the emotions we are experiencing ourselves, the emotions we are creating in the other person in the room, and also how we can create this emotion through our body language, our voice, and our words. Does this make sense? I hear a microphone. Does anyone want to say? It's okay if you want to share, but then if not, you can turn the mic off. Thanks. So basically, right, we're gonna pay attention to the words we use, right? Just like I said, maybe we don't want to talk about problems, we want to talk about challenges, right? And I want to find the best words to deliver my message. And as I mentioned, I'm going to use, right? Make sure that the people can see me, that I'm making eye contact, that my gestures are appearing. And for your voice, as I mentioned, it's important to play a little bit with the rhythm so you don't speak always in the same rhythm because that it's very monotonous and people will just be bored, right? You need to make sure you're not speaking all the time super fast, but rather not very slow either. So playing with all these elements are gonna help keep your audience engaged, right? So really important to consider this. And also, of course, the virtual environment, right? What we mentioned before. Make sure to have an appropriate background, that your sound is working properly, all the tech, the lighting, the sounds, everything that goes in your communication is very well taken care of. And also the context, the when is important, right? Because if you know the person doesn't have much time or like they really need to rush because it's like late in the afternoon, it's 6 p.m. and maybe it's not the best moment to speak. So be also conscious about this kind of stuff. So guys, now you have a lot of tools and resources, right? We explored these six main questions that we can ask ourselves to organize and design the content of the talk. Then we explored a little bit about the structure and how we can boost our message using a very simple structure. And also we explored the importance of the emotions we want to share and we are experiencing ourselves as speakers, right? Before we also reflected on the mindset and how to take care of ourselves as speakers. What questions do I have, guys? Questions? questions or reflections, you can share them in the chat. So the idea basically is that you take or share what takeaway, what one thing that you really like, that you're going to take away from this webinar, that you're going to start implementing, right? Remember, it's all about you. So really it's about how much you try out, how much you experiment, how much you dare take the opportunity to speak with your supervisor and do a nice, clear message, presentation. So it's really for you to take. Yeah, does that sound cool? Do you want to share any takeaway? Is good use video in a presentation? What do you mean? I don't think I understand the question. And remember, same idea, right? The goal is that the idea is that we're all going to face threats, right? Challenges, issues, even problems, right? But the more tools we have, the more resources we ourselves develop, the more chances of success. So this is the idea I want to share with you. Really take any opportunity to develop your skills, to take advantage of this opportunity. Someone is saying, I like the structure to not get lost in explanation and purpose, and I have to work on my emotions to not get nervous. Yes, 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 that's very important. For me, I realized I feel much more confident having video conversations. I think in person I would struggle more because I realized that when I get a little bit anxious, my leg start moving, you know, unconsciously. So if I were in person, the person in front of me would see that I'm somehow shaking because when I nervous, like my body really expresses it. And for me, doing it on camera is much, much better. And with this presentation, I discovered that I can be very clear in 3-5 minutes tops, right? You can share this idea I shared 1-2 minutes, right? And in 1-2 minutes, you can share a powerful idea. And you said, okay, the person can still, of course, ask me any questions and I can expand on anything they need. And for me, this has been a really game changer. So being aware of your emotions, what to do, what strategies, using post-its is really important. You know, like if I know I have an interview with someone I don't remember, I'm going to put a post-it in the name, right? So I don't make this mistake. So someone is asking, put one little video in a presentation. I would only put a video if it makes sense to what you really want to share, right? Like, or I don't know if it's a video of a process or like, of course, if it's a marketing campaign or something that is really important to see. If it's not essential, then I would just stick to being concise. Yeah. Okay, guys. So if you don't have any more questions, if you don't have any more comments, I will share a little bit the takeaways, right? So my idea for this presentation today, for this webinar, was to really give you some ideas for yourself, food for thought, really some ideas to consider, right? So create a relaxation routine for you, you know yourself, whatever works best. Prepare the presentation, have a clear idea of what you want to say, use a simple structure to guide your thoughts, create some notes, use post-its, like I mentioned, rehearse, right? Because it is super important. If you want to go in depth and say, I want to really develop my public speaking skills, you can record yourself and you can check yourself and gain some feedback. That's wild. You can learn a lot from yourself by doing this exercise. Of course, make sure your tech is working properly and get feedback, and that will also help you improve. So I like to know one takeaway, something you're taking out of this webinar, something that you will start doing, something that you said that was really nice. Excellent. Someone saying thank you. That was very interesting. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on your webinar. On our webinar, you can complete this form that I'm sending over the chat. Remember, you can earn your certificate. And if you want to stay in touch with me, you can add me on LinkedIn. Remember, it's a very good practice to send a message to the person you want to connect to, right? So send me a message to say, hey, Mirta, I participated in your webinar. It was really interesting, or whatever you want to share with me, so I know where you're connected from. Okay? Excellent. Well, thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure being with you today. And I wish you an excellent day, wherever you are in the world. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye.